lecture, I give you a little bit of an outlook. What will happen next? So we will dive into, like, I hope you have decided on a group work. If not, then probably after that lecture, you should pick for each one of your groups a topic you wanna dive deeper into, and we will actually then follow certain innovation procedures where we go through this bio design process of, the identification. You have something identified already, but we need to actually now validate that, ideate, maybe put potential solutions around it, and make this iteration process of actually doing a customer discovery. And we will follow a path. I've indicated that last time. That is that purpose launchpad idea or concept. And I gave you some things to read on that one too. Did everybody read that? So who did not read it? There's some important questions coming today. Anna did not read it. Anna. All right, I'll jump over this. I'll jump over this quick anyway. So just follow up on it to a certain extent. What I want to do today is, first start with a little bit of again medical innovation need. Then we will have one very quick game where we look at the value proposition of a particular idea. And then we'll dive into this launchpad methodology, focusing today quite a bit on this MTP approach. So Anna, you don't also know what MTP means, right? In this case,
massive transformative purpose.
You got it. So you actually at least something kept stuck in your brain. That's very good. So we want to focus on that one today, because this is in these launchpad methodologies what is part of this purpose. So what is the purpose of your idea? Now, everything that we do and everything that you will do as part of this, it doesn't have to be perfect. You make initially always an assumption, and then you actually try to dive in and maybe do some customer interviews or some potential interviews, and you try to validate your assumptions. And you go back and forth and try to fine tune things and try to get more information out of it. So the whole process is a learning process. There is no right or wrong, and there's no, wow, I have the highest score in this launchpad assessment. That's not important. Important is that you know what things you need to work on and where there is issues to solve. So this is a little bit the process. So we go over some medical needs again, because I start all the lectures always with hitting a little bit on why we need this innovation and what we need to improve. Then we'll start with the launchpad methodology, the first run through, maybe a little quicker. Then I'll also ask you at the end of the lecture to work on a group assignment for next time. And after that, we will dive deeper into each of these innovation methods. And we spend less and less time with any of this medicine stuff. So we spend more and more time with your individual projects. So what I would like you to also think of is that from next lecture on, I would like every group to always present their findings and present their results up to now, what they have done, what they have found out, what their learning was. And that's the most important thing to me. What was the learning? And so just so you know, so we have till about, we have 2 more lectures for Christmas, and I'll let you go, obviously, in Christmas and vacation in New Year. Rutusha wants to go to India. Is that true? Yeah, I or not? Didn't you ask for like a? I don't hear you.
Go on vacation.
Are you not leaving? I thought you were leaving to India.
No.
No. Okay, fine. So I misunderstood that. So I'm sorry. And basically, I also sent you a summary of all the assignments that I expected to do. One of them is an individual assignment on top of it. Well, you don't have to do this in the next few weeks or so. It's just due at the end, basically. But we'll talk about this a little bit later on too. Yeah. So let's get started. I hope it should actually work. Why doesn't it work? So now we go. So this was the reading assignment. So I hope that everybody read it, because we will talk today about value propositions. We'll talk about business models. We'll talk about massive transformative purpose, and we'll talk about the launchpad methodology. And that's all at least to a certain extent covered here. This B and C, those were very quick readings. I'm not entirely sure how valuable they were anywhere at the moment. This value proposition design is a little bit more interesting, but you need to know what a value proposition canvas is. And the massive transformative purpose we will actually dive into quite heavily today. Now, all the other ones I've put down here, for example, testing business ideas. That is something, it's not a mandatory reading for you at all, but it's something where you can actually check, you find methodologies in there based on value proposition, based on business model canvas, based on other things where you can actually test your business ideas. And that's something you may want to check later on when you are actually when we're talking about customer interviews, customer questionnaires, and also of how to actually prepare questions. You know, I always like to use this example of, you know, at least the guys or the people among us here, that's if you're given the option, you have the same, you get a Porsche or you get a Volkswagen, a Bug. It's like, what car would you take if money would not be an issue? And I would think that 99% would say it's a Porsche. So that's a really stupid question. And it's a stupid experiment. A question is also an experiment because you want to get some info back, right? So the experiments, you may remember what I said last time. If you know the answer already of an experiment, that also goes for science experiments, by the way. If you know the answer already, don't do the experiment. It's lost time. And if the outcome of the experiment does not change anything of what you're planning to do, don't do the experiment. What's the point of it? Everything else that doesn't cover these two aspects is a good experiment, right? So it goes for business ideas, goes for validations, for asking questions, and it also goes for your science projects that you still have to do as part of your, I think everybody's a PhD student, right? Okay. So who came in? Is it somebody who came in? I don't see everybody here.
Probably Holger. He had computer problems with his computer.
I just saw him. Okay. All right. So I mentioned it already. So we dive deeper into the methodology. Quick one on, that's what I said before I start with some medical slides. Just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what happened in what will happen in the world. So look at the blue square. Obviously, this is the percentage of old people, and with old people they define people age 60 or over. So I'm almost there, to be really honest. So anyway, so that's the percentage of old people in different regions. Now, why is that relevant? It's relevant because these are the people who probably get more likely sick. And it's also the people who need more assistance maybe in the future. It's also the ones right now with the COVID strategy or with the COVID approach that need to be protected maybe because they're more sensitive to diseases. So if you look at that, you'll see that, you know, particularly in Europe, we're hitting 30% of the total population will be 60 or over. So are we prepared for that type of aging in our society? I don't think so. We don't have enough people to take care of treatment at home. So all the support staff that we need, and the Japanese, for example, they're trying to solve that with robots, you know, because we don't have enough people on this one. But this is, again, something that we need to deal with, and there's lots of innovation opportunities. This is, by the way, looking into the future on a fact basis. You know, every time we look at the future, I very often, you know, we project that technologies will develop as follows, or that we anticipate that certain things will happen. This is really guessing. We don't really know. This is not guessing. This is pretty much a fact. That's very easy statistics. At the same time, the fertility rate will go down. This actually was one of the questions I think I asked you initially. What will the population be like? The population will probably not dramatically increase in the next decades. The main reason is because the fertility goes down, and fertility meaning like actually childbirth will go down. And I think the one with the highest child birth per woman is still Africa with about 4.5, and that will also drop down to 3. In most other countries, which we consider the developed world, it's 2 or below 2. And if you remember the number you need to maintain your population statistically is always dependent on the age you will actually reach at some point in time. So the older you get, you probably the less the lower this number will be. But at the moment, I think it's 1.7. So if your birth rate is below 1.7, you will actually lose population. So actually also something when we talk about all these migrants or immigrants that coming in, Germany, for example, we would be in really bad shape if we don't have any migration, if we don't have people coming in from other countries. And so we will definitely not stay German as we are at the moment. We'll be becoming a much more international society, which I think is actually good. Life expectancy, I think this will probably go up. That's my personal opinion with all the technologies, but it is steadily going up. It's a linear approach. We invest more money, we invest more technologies, we gain more knowledge, so it will go up. It goes up everywhere. And by the way, that was the answer, was one of the answers on this test. The average life expectancy in the world is already 70. So even the Africans, if you add this all up and divide it by the population, it's 70. And I think most of you said 60. If you remember. And we have a doodle again. Philip, come on, tell me something.
My first impression was an open book, but I don't know.
That's a double book then, right?
Yeah.
Could be. Beatrice, you're always pretty innovative.
No, I think my idea is too strange.
Yeah, but strange is good. Come on. That's actually one of the reasons why I do these, because at the end they are strange and then they're weird, and you need to actually lose. Nothing is, you can't say anything wrong here anyway. And you need to also speak up, right?
To me, it seems like a cartoon. I have the legs of a duck. Like.
You are actually not as far off as you think. So it has something to do with birds.
Yeah, like, but in a cartoon way, you know.
Well, it's a different type of bird. Anybody else? I don't see Philip at the moment on my screen, but I'm sure he's still around. Philip, sorry, Christoph.
2 swans, I think, maybe.
To what?
2 swans.
Again, with the birds, you were not so far off, but it's 2 ostriches kissing, right? So they're outside the frame. That's actually very important, because I always want you guys to think outside the box. You know, I thought it's always easily said, but outside the box is something that really the most important information could be outside the box, right? And you remember this, you may have done that yourself, that you have actually a square and you have 9 points on that. So it's 3 by 3 rows, and you need to actually connect all these 9 points with just 4 lines that are basically connected to each other. And what most people, just maybe you draw this down very quickly. Just put a square down and put 9 dots on it, so 3 by 3, and tell me how you can actually get this done by having just 4 lines that are connected to each other. So you are not allowed to put the pen down. So it should look like this, right? Oops. So just the square. Now you put 4 lines in there. Anybody solved it? No? You can only solve it, I don't know if you see it, you can only solve it if you actually go outside the box. So if you actually extend and you go back down there, it's the only way to actually solve it. And it is impossible to get it done by 4. But if I tell you it goes with 4 and you can't get it done in the box, how can you get it done with 3? Does anybody know? So this would be the solution for 3. So you just extend very long down there and you go up and down. Does anybody know how to solve it with 1?
But you just need to connect the outside dots. I didn't understand, also the internal dots. I didn't understand.
With 1 line? So how would you do it with 1 line?
1 line, doesn't matter. Also the inside dots or just the outside? I didn't get this thing.
No, you need to just have all the 9 dots connected to each other with 1 line.
Maybe with a circle or a curve.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, but think about a really, 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 really big circle. You just, I mean, this is a stupid idea, but you go around basically the world. So you follow the equator and you do that 3 times and you walk 3 times around, you'll have 1 line, right? Now, what is another idea? And I'm saying those are really stupid solutions, but you know, it is thinking out of the box. How do you get solutions? So what is another solution? Why don't you use a big brush and just go over it? 1 line. And I even have a third solution for that. What is the third one you can do? Just every time people tell you things are impossible, think outside the box. So a third solution, then we stop with this one, is you basically just fold the square so that all the dots are over each other's, and then you stick a pen through. Also a solution, right? So interesting. I want to go on with this one, but I maybe a good example of how things can be solved. So this is a really interesting, just look at the background, don't look at the text right now. This one is coming from Siemens. So Siemens is basically was creating also a science fiction and was saying, what is surgery looking like in 2050? And that picture came from there. So they had the robots there, and they were basically probably working autonomously. They had a screen, which is a plasma screen, or maybe just some laser projection, who knows. And then there's 2 people discussing the fate of this patient that's laying. This is what Siemens created as a potential vision for 2050. So I want to make you aware, though, that solving problems in this massive transformative purpose is also important. It's not only health. There's a lot of other big issues. Even though we have a really good world, and the world has gotten dramatically better in the last 50 years, that we still need to try to address some of these issues. And for every one of those, there's health is an issue. So I think we're all in, if you really look at it from a business perspective, we're on the right business at the moment. And there's lots of technologies out there. Those are the 30 technologies. I may have actually given you this chart before, that are considered the technologies of the next decade, which is the one that's already going on. The 20s, basically, the 2020s. And those are all of them are converging to each other. So it's not like big data is standing by itself, because big data needs powerful computers, right? Maybe mobile data, because otherwise the data is not getting from A to B and it's not being stored anywhere. So all of these things are somehow interrelated, or a lot of them are interrelated. I just picked the ones out that I believed are most relevant for healthcare, even though cybersecurity, for example, is very important for healthcare as well, but more on the management side. But is there anything else which is edge compute? I don't even know what edge computing is. Quantum computing, I know what it is, but I'm not sure that it really is relevant at the moment. Those are also the topics. If you really look at them, that's to a certain extent we are in my lab working with a little bit with all of them. We have AIs, we work with sensors. So Rotucha, if you have any sensor needs, Rotucha is the one who can build sensors, right? And blockchains, I believe this is a very important technology. So use these technologies and think about how they will actually be used to converge, to mingle with each other, to create maybe even more impact. And how many of you are in these technologies? So Beatrice, what are you doing? Which technologies are you using?
I think I am in the field of the human-computer interaction. Similar.
Number 19 or what?
Yes, I think because I do neurofeedback is a kind of BCI, but in a closed loop, not in open.
Okay.
It's similar.
But again, if you look at some of these technologies and you just project what could happen, for example, with 21, if we have novel materials around, biocompatible, biodegradable materials, maybe also new materials that could be helping for implants or for exoskeletons or for all kinds of other things, there's an enormous amount of potential that is in these technologies. Okay, this is cool. This is they call it the Amigo suite, Advanced Multimodal Image Guided Operating Suite. And it's in Boston, Massachusetts. It's installed at the Brigham Women's Hospital, which is part of Harvard Medical School. And I actually went there 2 years ago, and I had a video, but I don't know what happened to the video. And I was entering here through this door where the red carpet is on the floor. And it is, when you look to the left, I hope it's the left on your Htid too, but it says 3 Tesla MRI. That is an MRI system that is mounted on the ceiling. So whenever you need it, it goes over and then goes over the patient. And on the right side, you have a PET MRI. So you could then turn the table, and then you can actually do a PET CT. The PET CT would either, no, I don't think it moves. I think the bed moves into the PET CT. But you have, there's robots in there too, which are not visible right now. So it's like this super duper imaging and surgery suite. And so the question that I typically ask here is like, is that cool? Is that a real cool setup? So what's the answer? Yeah, of course it is, right? It's absolutely brilliant. And actually, by the way, these monitors you see in the middle with these yellow buttons on there, that's BrainLab. So we have some of those in our lab, if you have seen that. So that's, and the one above that is a navigation device from BrainLab. So yes, of course, it's absolutely brilliant. Now, let me ask a much more relevant question though. What can you do better with that thing than you can do with the normal conventional stuff? Well, talk.
Probably you can't do anything better with it, but it's at one place and so close and reachable. So you can do like analysis within seconds. Like you don't have to move from one building to another or fill out like big forms and applications and so on.
I think research-wise, you're probably right. This is absolutely cool, and that will possibly do something. But does anybody maybe ask a different question? Anybody know what that roughly cost to set up? And honestly, I don't know myself. I honestly don't know. But I think the 3 Tesla MRI on the ceiling, hanging on the ceiling, is about 2.5 million. The PET CT on the right side is about 1 million, 1.5 million. Everything else is probably another 1.5 million. So we're talking 6 already. You need advanced air conditioning because it's a special device. You need building measures. Let's say 10 million, just for the heck of it, right? So how many of these systems have been installed in the world? Come on, give me a number. 100, 50, 500.
Like a complete room like this?
Yeah,
or...
this kind of setup. Advanced imaging suite.
2 or 3 times.
This is it. It's the only one. So another question, has it been a real commercial success? No. Now, why do you do things like that? From a research perspective, because we can do it. It's the same thing like, why do you climb Mount Everest? Because I can. Yeah, it's cool to build something like that. But if you really think a little further, if you would install something like that to basically have a gold standard, this is it. This is the best that I can get. And then you try from there to reduce and say, and now let me try to reach the same goal with maybe 1/10 of the money. I think that would be a really cool idea to do something like that. But that's not what it was made for. That's not what it was installed for. Nobody thinks that way in Boston. So I got actually in trouble with the professor who runs that because I was telling that on a public conference. I was using the same picture, And he was like, no, this is pure science, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, it's all good. I like your approach, but this was not installed in a research institute. That was installed in a normal hospital because you wanted to do better neurological imaging and you wanted to do that for surgery. And at the end of the day, you have not proven the point that it really creates a benefit or that it really is worth the money. So at the end of the day, that's my question that I ask her. Will these devices be the ones that benefit everyone? So the answer is, I think, is already clear to you. There's only one installed, and it will certainly not be something that will be installed in Ethiopia or in India or wherever. This is limited even to the US, only in Boston installed. And typically we Germans, we have everything always installed because we like to have all these nice gadgets around. I think we have the highest 7 Tesla density in the world in Germany. And we have the highest MR PET density in the world. And you have to also ask yourself, and I think that's an important task, is it really worth to put this effort together? By the way, for the MR PET, I have another example for the MR Linac. We'll talk about in a second on the value of that. This is it, MR Linac. Anybody seen that yet? So it's basically an MRI scanner that is combined with a linear accelerator. And you see on the right side, you see a little bit, this is where these yellow lines go. Those are the magnetic flux lines of the MRI. And there's an MRI, and basically there's a linear accelerator built around it. Philips has one, and Siemens has one as well. And Siemens uses a lower field magnet, while Siemens uses the normal 1.5 Tesla system. Now, what does a 3 Tesla or 1.5 Tesla system cost? Does anybody know? By the way, those are important information. So it will certainly not be part of a test or anything, but it's important to know what these things cost, because otherwise you'll never know whether ideas that you have are actually worth pursuing. So what is a 1.5 Tesla cost? Anybody know?
800,000.
How much?
800,000.
It's not that far off. It's a little cheaper, but probably if you buy the fully loaded one, you know, the one with the air conditioning and everything, if you look at the car, you're probably right. It's about 800,000. I think you can get them for 600, roughly like that. Does anybody know what a linear accelerator costs?
Could you explain what it is? I have never heard about it.
Linear accelerator. I mean, if you ever want to see one, go to we have a building for that at the Magdeburg clinic. It's the Strahlentherapie, right? And it's basically an electron gun, and you bombard basically the cells, the tumor cells. So I think we have 2 in Magdeburg, and the professor is a very nice guy. He probably lets you look at that. So nobody knows, I would assume, what it costs, right? Moritz, any idea? They're right about $1 million to $1.5 million. The more expensive thing about this linear accelerator is not so much the accelerator itself, is what you see on the left side is the building you have to construct. You have to put like a couple of meters of concrete walls around it, so you protect everybody from the electron gun. And so that's actually more expensive. So anyway, so we add, I think it comes in a sec, we add 1 million on the left side and another 1 million on the right side. And what comes out is 6 million. So what I want to say is, if you would buy an MRI separately, it's 600 to 800,000. If you buy the linear accelerator separate, it's $1 million. And if you put these 2 things together, it's now 6 million. Now, if you would 6 million, if that's the cost, you would also argue that the performance needs to be significant better. But if you add the performance up, you only maybe get to 1.5. It's only 1.5 times better as if you have these devices separately. Why is that? What is the value proposition of putting these things together? Does anybody know? Why do you put an MR and a PET together? Why do you put a PET and a CT together? What's the main argument for that?
Maybe the outcome of the therapy is more than proportional than the finance.
No, what is it? See, you can most of maybe you need to know a little bit more about technology. A linear accelerator is an electron gun, so in easy terms, but it also has a little X-ray device built on, so you can do CT scanning with it. So you have a CT scanner built into that thing already anyway. So what is the advantage of not using CT and using MRI in that context?
No, I don't know the English word, also keine Strahlung.
Yeah, but who the hell cares?
I mean, depends
So-
what you're looking at in the image.
What was that?
Depends what you wanna look in the image, what you wanna see in the pathology, because I perform a CT for a thing and MRI for another. If I combine both, I have in one image both information.
Yeah, but you have that too with the normal in XR. You have a CT and the electron information also in one. So what is the advantage of replacing this X-ray information, this CT information with an MRI? And is it worth that much? Now, let me give you the answer that I may have. What was that? Say again.
The cost. Because if
no, I mean the cost is higher, but it needs to. But why do people decide? Oh, let's put an MRI and a linear accelerator together. They must come from a perspective where they say something is not working well at the moment, so we need to make something better, right? Why would you do that otherwise? So I honestly, I don't know. I think there is. I mean, you said radiation. Yes, there is less radiation. But the most radiation you get actually is from the linear accelerator, which you still have, and those are people that are oncological patients. They have cancer. Believe me, they're not dying because they get a little bit of extra radiation from that CT. That's not what kills them. They're typically 60, maybe 70 years old. This is not what kills them. That is irrelevant, at least I believe. Now, if you look at children, maybe, yes, I would agree. Yeah, because with children, you would like to try to reduce as much as possible. Now, MRI has some advantages with respect to soft tissues, agreed. On the other hand, you have done an MRI beforehand anyway and merge it. And you have the disadvantage of the MRI that it's, first of all, it's incredibly sensitive to everything you move in and out. And there's a lot of metal going on here. And the second thing is the structures that you use as reference bones are not as well visible in an MRI. They're much better visible in a CT. So there is a question why these things are being put together. And I guess one of them is because people want it, and somebody said, I think that would be really cool to have. But what I want to show you, and I think that's what I typically, what I think is really interesting, is if you listen to or look at the statement from the president of Lect, that's the company that manufactures the linear accelerator. He said, we expect that high field MRI guided radiation therapy will become the standard of care within the next 10 years. Now, listen carefully to that. Standard of care, that means every damn hospital needs to have one of those. And in the next 10 years. And it's 6 million. And the question is, what is it really doing better than what is at the moment out there? Is it worth that much? And do you really believe that will happen? Second comment is from the guy, from the CEO of Philips. Interesting enough, he says that together with our partners, all leaders in radiation therapy, we are convinced that the integrated MRI-guided radiation therapy system has the potential to become a game changer in cancer care on a global scale. So global, which includes Africa, by the way, and includes South America, that is the standard of care, right? That will be the one. Now, are they kidding us? Or, I mean, what are they trying to tell us here? Are you really believing that this will change cancer care dramatically? I think having genetic information available and being able to actually address a cancer maybe with a personalized drug, I think that is probably changing. But really, this device is changing cancer care? You're still using radiation. You still are not really doing anything significantly differently than you do right now. So I'm a little questioning all these approaches that we have, and I'm again going to erase the sentence again that I put up there. Will these devices be the ones that benefit everyone? No, they won't. They will benefit. I'm not saying that they're completely unnecessary. There will probably be some applications for that, and there will some patients benefiting from that, but only very, very few, and probably only in areas where there is tons and tons of money available. So actually one of the, Yeah.
Don't you think then with our mobility nowadays, it would be not easier like to build it maybe everywhere, just in place, and people go,
Yes.
they like for a healthcare vacation and you're getting this treatment and your cancer is cured.
If you have money.
If you have money, of course.
If you have enough money. So again, is that something that we want? Is that something that where we say, yeah, cool, you will live longer, 5 years, because you have the money to afford a MR Linac? Not sure that's cool. I mean, for people that have the money, it may be cool, right? I mean, they may demand that they get the best treatment. They do that already anyway. And what I do think what was right about what you said is, I think we need some of these devices. The question is how many. So is Germany good with 10 systems? Where do we place them? And then it's fine. And then we decide who's actually benefiting as a patient from this device, not based on how much money they have, but based on the need. You guys are aware of proton therapy? Ever heard of this before? So proton therapy is a different approach it's also a radiation therapy device. And instead of using electrons or photons, which you use with with any gamma probe, you use actually protons. And the protons have a much higher energy. They're in the order of 200 mega electron volts. So, and what happens with these protons is you basically can precisely guide them. They will. Now, let me start differently let me start with the electrons and with the photons. When you have electrons and photons, you will actually always damage some healthy cells because the selectivity is not as high. And if you have a proton, you can actually make that proton stop exactly at the tumor cell. So it is a very, very precise treatment. And there is certainly some applications for that. I mean, think about you have a tumor behind your eye. You don't want to destroy the eye nerves, right? Or maybe close to the spinal cord, where you want to make sure that the tumor is not spreading to the spinal cord, and you don't want to damage the spinal cord. These are the important things. Now, the disadvantage of these, or maybe I ask a question again differently. Is it so important that you are actually precise in cancer therapy? How important is it to be very precise?
I think it's very important because if you hurt some body parts and blood is going to other organs or genetic material, then the cancer is spreading the rest of the body.
I'm not sure that's true what you just said, but let's just take that as a statement. But then ask you a different question. How accurately can you determine where cancer is? Right? What's the point if you are only able to determine a cancer location with like 0.5 millimeter resolution? How important is it to be at 0.1 millimeters with your radiation therapy? Other thing is, and Beatrice knows this, when you look at MRI images every once in a while, I assume. And if you look at an MRI image, how accurately is the border? Also, is it whatever lights up in an MRI and is identified as a tumor, does that clearly show tumor borders? Do you really know exactly where the white starts is the tumor and where the other starts is non-tumor? You don't know that. So what I'm trying to say with that is the imaging gives you some information, but it's not really that precise. What you want to do in a normal cancer therapy is you don't want to just treat what you see as a tumor, but you also want to treat a margin around the tumor. You want to not precisely only address that because you don't know whether there's tumor cells outside this area that you identify as tumor. So typically you would go in a normal abdominal tumor, you would go probably for 3, 4, 5 millimeters more. You would just try to resect more. You would never cut out only the tumor, but also more of the tumor. So again, let me ask you, how important is an accurate tumor therapy? Maybe you have a different answer now, Christoph.
No, definitely. Resolution is the biggest part, and yeah, I'm started working with imaging, and I know how the imaging process is done, and it's collecting the data in voxels, and then voxels are approximatized and so on and so far. But
But
Yeah.
this is what is important, that we're not only looking at the technology and what the technology can do, but we look at what is actually needed out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like another question or another statement that I always get when I talk about interventional MRI. This is my PhD topic, right? I was in 1995, I got a PhD in interventional MRI. And people were kind of like laughing at the approach that we took because we had a rather low field MRI with really shitty image quality. Now, when I go and I did this 5-6 years ago, I asked radiologists, what do they need with an interventional MRI? The answer was, it needs to be as good quality as a diagnostic image. And I said, why? You have done a diagnostic image before. And if you want to work interventionally now, isn't that good enough if you know roughly where the tumor is? And you don't, who cares on whether it's like a 0.1 millimeter resolution? Who cares on whether the resolution is really nice and the contrast ratio is really good? Are you able to see the tumor? Are you able to see where you want to go or not? And if they say, yeah, then they typically answer, yeah, it's actually good enough to see how do I get to the tumor? And it's good enough to identify that I'm in the tumor. I said, so what do you need a 3 Tesla for then? And if you don't need a 3 Tesla, you can reduce the cost dramatically, the effort dramatically. And interesting enough, Siemens just introduced a new MRI scanner. That was their big highlight, a 0.55 Tesla. And they are saying that that is the future because we can do so much more with that. We don't have to worry about artifacts. We don't have to worry about attraction forces, and the image quality is good enough. Now, whether the radiologists will buy that is a different story. Now, what I typically do here, and we cut that short because I think it's too much time that would go for that. But think about when you look at that, what is the value proposition of this device? So this is really something, this is a really good exercise when you really think, what is this device? What kind of job is it doing? What kind of pain is it actually solving? What kind of gain would it produce? This is very important to do these things to basically determine the value of something. I thought some other examples on this one. We'll cut this one through. Now, a quick one on AI. This is Bertalan. Christoph, you were, I think, telling me about Bertalan. I follow him for the longest time. I actually met him 2 years ago in a conference, and I use quite a bit of his informations. And I would actually recommend, if people are interested in the future of medicine, sign up to his blog. You get a weekly email, and he highlights all the things that happen. It's pretty interesting. And he also has some really cool videos that he brought out. And he said that the artificial intelligence is the stethoscope of the 21st century. The stethoscope was, in the end 19th century, beginning 20th century, was the first tool that allowed you to actually listen into the body and make a diagnostic from the outside, an non-invasive diagnostic from the outside. It really was a game changer at the time. And so he believes now that artificial intelligence is the game changer of the 21st century. I tend to actually agree with him on that one. It needs to come, of course, in combination with other things. The sensorics is the starting point to actually get information, get data, but what you later on do with the data is very often done these days with AI. And if you really look, this is a funny chart. They have asked actually people, like a lot of the futurists or people in this segment, when will AI replace certain jobs? And you see the line, that there's this dotted line. This is like the bandwidth. They said, well, in the next 10 years, and then some other sections in 200 years. So that's why it starts from 10 to 200. And the red dot the dot in the middle is like the average, the mean of the estimation. And if you look at this, for example, you stay with our surgeon. People believe, if you follow that AI will replace a surgeon in about 35 years, 40 years, and a truck driver in probably the next 10 years. I think that's actually easy to assume. When you look at the self-driving cars, self-driving trucks, that I'm not entirely sure if I would tell my 7 or 8 year old boy at the moment that you should become a truck driver. Probably not a good idea. And interesting enough, I think that was pretty funny that they believe the AI researcher will actually be replaced by AI as well. and makes actually sense, because if you have AI and you have artificial intelligence that can actually create probably programs better than a researcher could. So it's completely useless for our discussion, but it was just interesting to see what people think about AI. Now AI, just a quick one, is only a problem as soon as you actually understand how it works. If you understand how it works, it's simply a program, nothing else. And people are a little bit afraid of AI, and I would say, yeah, there's probably some reason to be afraid of AI to a certain extent, and I have some statements on this in a second. But as soon as you understand how this AI program works, it really is only a program at the moment. So these are the things that are kind of cool, because they are three very important people in this century that have talked about AI and what they expect AI will do. So let me start with the top one. I don't think there's a need to panic. So Bill Gates was a little bit more careful, but he says you need to be still careful. I think that the one that was the worst was Stephen Hawking. Development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. It would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded. Could happen. How do we prevent that will happen? That's a question, because that's also a question that we, if you look forward, we need to be aware that could happen. And if these three people say, it's not Michael Friebe who said that, it's Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates. I'm not afraid of AI. I think we can stop it anyway. It is there and it will stay there. But how do we make sure? And this is where I think spend 3 slides on with you to discuss about ethics, about moral, about watching out what happens. So what is the easiest way to make sure that AI will not take over?
I mean, we should, or we have to always understand what AI is calculating. And maybe I can just, I'm not really into AI. I don't have a really knowledge about it, but a friend once told me a story from Facebook, and where Facebook wanted to install something AI driven, and they had to stop it because this artificial intelligence starts to create its own language, and they couldn't follow anymore what it's. I don't know if it's true, but he told me.
You have, I'm not sure if it's true either, but you have already mentioned the way out of this dilemma. What was the way out? How did they stop it?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure what he told me. Yeah, they just stopped the program, but I don't know how.
I think the most important thing at the moment to make sure is that there's a stop button included.
Yeah.
One way or another, or an off button. If you can turn the sucker off, it's still okay. If the device is so smart and so clever that you cannot turn it off anymore, you've got a problem. But as soon as we can still turn it off, it is what it is. Now, my knowledge in AI is also rather superficial. I'm also not deep in there. I think maybe if we ask Moritz or others in that, they would know a little bit more about it. But it is, to a certain extent, for most people already not understandable anymore, particularly when you do these unsupervised learning approaches, where supervised learning basically says you have a gold standard. So this is what is right, and please program, try to get as close as possible to what I said is right. And unsupervised learning is you basically let the computer figure it out themselves. So they had this, I think this Go, which computer was this? Deep Mind or something like that, was learning Go, which is the most complicated game in the world. And they basically did not tell the computer anything about how this game works. And it took the computer, I think, a couple of days before it was on a master level knowledge of how to play that. And it basically taught itself. And I don't think that these researchers really know how it worked. I don't think so. So a lot of these unsupervised, Moritz, I don't know, you're not an AI expert either, but do you know anything? Can you comment anything more on that?
Yeah, I mean, the topic of the deep learning is really, really big, and there are several AI types, also in the way they learn or they recreate their connection. So these weights between the layers. I mean, there are really different types of AI depending on your goal, how you want to apply them to solve which problem, because which problem is solvable depending on your question, and then you apply the specific AI. So I think in that case, the AI that was solving the game is because AI creates basically like a genetic code, and they recreate every time to learn better.
Yeah.
And so they are forward and backward inputs between layers to learn and to see the output then. And that's the way.
So I believe that, but if you really look at the development of AI and you look at what happened, in the last 5 years in this segment, it's mind-boggling. I had one PhD student that I supervised at the TU München about 7-8 years ago, and he had a topic that had also something to do with segmentation, and he had like very interesting algorithms he developed. And it took him 3.5, 4 years of PhD time, right, to actually make that happen. And then Professor Nawab, who is known to actually some of us here in this group, he had a master's student trying to actually solve the same problem with AI, and he was able to get it done in 2 months and significantly better and faster than what the PhD student took 4 years for. So, an indication of how quick technology develops, how quick things happen, and also maybe a reason to rethink on whether, this is a little snitch for me on the side, so don't take it too serious, on whether a 4-year PhD program or 3-year PhD program is actually worth the effort. I believe that we may actually have to cut it down in separate projects and analyze them separately. All right.
One question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you maybe comment on the sentence in the back of the picture, because some slides.
Yeah, on this one here now.
Yeah, but
no. Interesting enough, every year I'm going to a big radiology show. It's called the RSNA. It's in Chicago, and I think in 2016 it started. AI is coming. That was like the topic, right? In 2017 it said, oh, AI is really doing wonderful things. And in 2018 it said, AI is here. It's not coming anymore. AI is here. And of course, then people started thinking about, well, if it's here already, what will be the next steps? And so very often AI topics in medicine are used in combination with imaging or combination with image analysis. There is the University of Essen, for example, which I have very close ties to. They have set up a new AI institute, and they put 6 professors in there who do nothing but AI for imaging. So that is seen as a really big thing. So if you're a radiologist, and I have a chart for you in a second on this one, and you know that the AI is significantly better than you are with diagnosing images, then you have to actually ask yourself, is my job safe? Well, this is what people do, right? So what Bertalan says, he says, well, yeah, it is right, because the radiologist may probably get a different job description. The job description is not anymore looking at the images, but maybe looking at images that are a little questionable, or results of AI that need to be interpreted, and maybe also results of AI that need to follow up with a therapy plan. So maybe the radiologist will move into a more like a patient guide. It's like, I recommend you to do following imaging. This is the result. That's what the AI came up with, and I would support that, but I recommend you do following things now. Maybe that's the new role of the radiologist. But if you ignore AI as a radiologist, you will be lost. And that's the basic baseline on this one. And again, if you look at RSNA and you look at how many more of these companies have actually been coming up in the last years, it was amazing. Moritz, were you at RSNA last year? I forgot. No, Thomas was, right? Okay. Because
yeah, Thomas was, I was not.
Alfredo was there. So because he would have seen of how many there's a complete hall. It's a soccer hall, but it's basically a soccer field only with new AI companies in that segment. And you know, at Inca, we also do some AI programs dedicated. It's called artificial narrow intelligence. It's a very narrow application. And for example, for ultrasound evaluations. And that will come, and the radiologist is just not simply as good, or the clinician. I'll have some examples on this. I think it comes in a second. Now AI, this is actually, and where the impact of AI could be very high. And that, if you look at them carefully, they have all something to do with radiology, with images. Radiology uses images. Dermatology uses images. They have basically pictures of the skin. They look at that and they analyze. Now a computer can do that better. And radiology evaluation, a computer can do a lot of things better. Oncology is a lot of images involved, you know, putting images together, making plans with radiation. Pathology, that's an image. It's basically a slide and it's an image. Where is the cancer cell? How do we count the cancer cells? How are the borders? It's all imaging. And computers can do that better. Primary care, that's always where the people come in and say, not so sure. I saw a presentation from ADA. Everybody knows ADA, I think mentioned ADA many times before. ADA is this company in Berlin. Just actually download their app. It's really funky. You can do it for Android or for Apple, ADA, that's all it is. And it's basically an anamnesis. It's a program that analyzes. If you put in, they ask you questions and you put in answers. You put down what is your problem. You put down my right hip hurts. Then it asks you, well, is it only the right hip or is it only the left hip as well? Does it also hurt your knee and your shoulder? And it asks specific questions, and then it gives you an answer and it says, to 80% it is this, and to 15% it is this, and to 10% is that. So it gives you a really clear analysis, and they have compared the ADA results that came out with a normal anamnesis that a general practitioner would do. And the ADA is on the same level than the primary care physician. Now, what do you think that will happen? Will that get better or not? It will get better because you plug more data in. It will get better and better and better. Where the normal physician will learn very slowly, the AI will learn very quickly. So that's why primary care could be one where you will do your analysis at home. You use ADA and do it at home. Or you have a wife like mine who is really fit at this stuff anyway, and she's your doctor. But I'm not going to a doctor. I'm basically listening to these kind of things. But really do this. You guys are all young and healthy, and you have nothing. But check that ADA out. It's a very, very cool program, and it's a company in Berlin. So it's really interesting to see what they have done, and I can't see it on my little screen, but the CEO of the company, founder, just received an AI professorship in Marburg. So he's a really interesting guy, and I heard him talk last week. I actually have some charts on this one I can show you. I think I may even have it on the computer, because I made some screenshots on this one. Now, what do you think? These are the ones that benefit from AI the most. What do you think will not benefit from AI?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I wanted to ask, what about surgery? And some slides ago, surgery was at the list.
Well, if you have, give me a couple of ones that you don't believe will be affected by AI or not affected that much. So maybe surgery. Let's put down surgery. Okay. What else?
I mean, neurology is also doing a lot with images, but so
these are the ones that are negatively influenced, or they will benefit from AI. They will basically give. So where is AI not so important? Now, maybe. I disagree with the first ones right away, because are you working, Beatrice? You're working a little bit on mental health, is that right? Or
mental health, no. I mean, I have a degree in psychology, but now just on memory.
But let me ask the question: do you believe that psychology is something you can actually put very quickly, not quickly, but can put in a program where you basically you're feeling good, all right? What, on a level of 1 to 10, how do you feel? do you have problems at home? Don't you think you can actually create a questionnaire that would help establish your mental status?
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can, but I don't know if right now I will implement a artificial intelligence in psychology
I know
because
there's a lot of AI programs that actually deal with mental health problems, but you see here nursing and emergency medicine, our nursing is a hands-on job. People need to be taken care of. So this is certainly something where AI is not really that helpful. And emergency medicine is something where maybe before the patient hits the emergency room, you can do some pre-evaluation. You can actually give some hints, but in the emergency room itself, it's probably not that useful. Now, surgery, I believe that surgery will be reduced, maybe also because of AI, but not the surgery itself, but maybe that people maybe get alternative treatments, but surgery. So I rather believe that AI will help, direct patients into a different direction, and maybe try out certain things before they get surgery. Um, and I'm not talking about oncology. That may be too critical. But certain things, for example, I have a shoulder problem and should be surgery on, and I have tried out everything else before surgery. I think surgery is my last option, right? And it's not going to kill me. So at the end of the day, I can wait, right? And so I think that's what will happen. And of course, you have to think about what will happen to robotic surgery if that is working together with AI. So if you have an imaging modality, so you have an image and the image says this is where the tumor is, and then you locate somehow the body, and then you say, I know exactly where the tumor is, and that robot just goes in and does it. So I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, this is of course science fiction, but is it that far away? Is it that unlikely that will happen?
So
Not sure.
what about career advice for medical students?
This is actually, if you look at your assignments, one of the assignments that I put down is an individual assignment. It says, please tell me, what do you think your job will be looking like in 15 years? And do it yourself. I think doctors will definitely not. I'm positive they will not disappear, but I'm sure that they will actually spend more time with the patient because all the other crap is maybe taken away, and maybe AI does the pre-evaluation, and they will be more like a guide to the patient. They will help them actually develop, and they will say, by the way, here's my nutrition advice, here's my blah 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 advice. So they will not be focusing on one specific thing and try to fix that, but they will try to look at that probably more holistically. Maybe. I have no idea. I still believe we need more doctors right now. On whether we need more doctors in 20 years or 30, I don't know. This is what I was mentioning. This is the accuracy level. And by the way, these numbers are 2 years old. So these are not the newest numbers. So I'm sure that they are better now. So if you look at dermatology, and that was actually detecting a melanoma from a non-melanoma, the algorithm was always better than the human, and significantly better. Pathology, lung cancer, tissue analysis, the algorithm was always better, etc., etc. Now, one more time, these algorithms will significantly increase in performance over the next years, and the human will not learn, or only learn very slowly, because he sees every year 500 patients, so he will learn from these 500 patients, maybe, because he can only learn if he gets a feedback. If he doesn't get a feedback, he won't learn. So if he said that was cancer and nobody tells him, no, you were wrong, it was no cancer, he cannot learn. He will still assume it was cancer, what he saw in the pathology image. So this is actually something where you need to ask yourself, maybe the women among us, okay? So you assume you're 50. Well, far away for all of you, I know. But with 50, mammography screening starts in Germany. So you will get a letter from your health insurance, and says, Anna, Rutucha, Beatrice, you are invited to come to get a breast scan, a mammography scan. And you know these numbers here. You know that mammography screening the algorithm is better than the human, what would be your first question be if you make an appointment? Well, are you doing this, doctor, or is the algorithm doing the evaluation? Because why would you want the human to do it if you know that he's worse, he or she is worse? You want the algorithm to do it. What do you think the answer would be right now? We don't have an algorithm. We do it all by ourselves. So one more step. They are already better. They're proven to be better. There are thousands and thousands of confirmations, but is not being transferred into the medical field. The medicine has not taken it over. And why is that? Again, let's start building this up. There is algorithms out there who are better at evaluating mammography images than a human can. The human medical doctor has not implemented that into his or her workflow. Why is that? A very easy answer. He's not getting paid for it. If he or she does it himself, he gets 30 euros per mammogram evaluation. If he has to pay 5 euros for the AI program, he only gets 25 because he has to subtract that from the 30 he receives. So he's not doing it. So money, and I try to mention this as often as I can, money is an important factor. So please consider always, are you actually solving a problem, and are you at the same time not only reducing the cost, but actually giving these guys a reason to actually switch over? Okay, I think this is the last one on this one. Rutusha, what is it? Come on, a couple of answers. Holger, I've not even picked on you yet. What is it? You know it probably, actually, Holger, because you have seen it many times. Yeah, Holger knows it,
That's
actually.
the only one I
Holger's not
don't
allowed
know.
to answer.
Maybe a head with a fly.
A head with a fly.
No,
I don't see that at all, but it's okay. That's good. That's what you see. now that you mentioned the head, I see the head too. It's true. I didn't see a head before. But the problem is I know the answer, and that's why I don't look at this. I look in the box too. Anna, come on. All right. Got it? Okay, I think we cut over this. I mean, I don't want to go into this anymore. This is just basically pointing out, if we would have, just assuming, we would have all this information available, this human genome information, which I have. Anybody signed up for the Dental Labs 149 euro offer? Probably not, huh? You have all the genomic information. You have your microbiome information. So basically, everything that happens with digestion, blood information. You have a full body MRI, phenotype information. You put this into a database and you mix it, and you have some AI programs run over it. Don't you believe that some meaningful information comes out for you? I believe that too. And I think that's what the future will be, is the future is in data mining and basically combining that with machine learning approaches, and we'll have some meaningful information. And there's a company, for example, I visited a company in San Diego. It's called Human Longevity. They do exactly that at the moment. They cannot really give you all the information yet because their data set is not big enough. But that's what they do. Is I think you pay, if you Google that and you put that in, you can actually sign up. I think it costs $5,000 or something, or 10,000. I don't know exactly. And that's what they do with you. So there's a lot of richos in California who actually are signing up, and then they get every 2 years, they get a checkup, and they get always new information about what came out of the data collection, data mining approaches. So I think this is what's going to happen. All right. This one we cut over because I was planning, because I don't think we have enough time. I was planning to actually have you look at some of these technologies. Those are some technologies that developed in our lab. This is from Pudel. He finished his PhD last year. No, not last year, 6 months ago, 8 months ago. and where we basically are able to use an ultrasound to segment and create 3D volumes out. And I wanted you to actually do a value proposition analysis on it. Every time you see something like that in the future, think about what is the gain of that one? What does it really do? Does it solve a problem really? And the same thing was with this one. This is from Nazila. It's also one of our PhD students. She's actually developing and using an endoscope and using a contact endoscopy going through the larynx in here in the throat, and looking at the basically the blood lines. If the blood if these arteries are all going kind of like in the same direction, it's okay, it's good. If they start to wiggle, if they start to create circles, then it's a sign of cancer. So the idea was here to just basically analyze this and create a somewhat of a prevention idea. You just go in and check your throat every once in a while and see what happens and whether you develop cancer, because it's also a cancer that you don't feel, it doesn't cause any pain, and you can very clearly see early stages of it. It's a really nice detection system. So I wanted you to do that as well. And but we cut this short. We just think about what these things could do and on whether they really do the job that the customer wants. The question is, of course, who is the customer? Is the customer now the ENT doctor? Is the customer the patient? Is the customer the ENT university guy or more the private practice guy? So these are the kind of questions that are very, very important for innovation. Okay. So a couple of slides, and then we'll go into the Purpose Launchpad. A couple of slides on ethics. So this was 2017, and you may have heard before, and they were creating these artificial sheeps, right? Genetically altered sheeps in China and even in the UK. And now it apparently they were apparently able to create the first human embryos edited in the US. Now, what do you think about this? Is that cool? Or is it something you should maybe don't feel that comfortable with? Yeah, well, say that. I mean, so you basically say you don't feel that comfortable with it, Christoph, right?
Yeah, I feel a little bit uncomfortable because seeing it from a Christian way, it's a little bit yeah, we are playing God, you know, like we're deciding what's happening, what's not, and this is maybe then lacking in mutations or whatever can come out and create something new and even better by nature.
Now I'm not a Christian, but I still feel uncomfortable with it. Not because of the God play, but more of the fact that we are losing a lot of the identity that we have at the moment. I feel quite uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, it seems like the gen pool is getting less, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Rutuja, how do you feel about it? Be honest. We don't hear you. Not working? Okay, I picked you, Rutuja, because of your heritage, because that has nothing to do. I didn't want to point you out, but I had a lot of Indian students in the past, and we had actually, they came up with business models of creating a genetic clinic where they would basically create babies of your wish, and that was in India. That was actually nothing wrong. They thought it was actually kind of cool, and they thought it was all okay. I'm not judging whether that's good or bad, Rutuja. So even if you think that's cool, what I want to point out with that is that people think differently about that. And they have a different understanding about ethics. And they have a different understanding. Ethics is something very subjective. You may think, Christoph, differently about what is unethical than what Rutuja thinks is unethical, or what Morris thinks is unethical. And I think particularly in the field of medicine, we need to be careful that we have a common ground, that we have maybe a joint understanding of what is considered ethical or unethical. Otherwise, we'll have a problem. Because otherwise we can say in Europe, this is completely unethical. And then in China, they will say, we don't give a shit what the Europeans say, we'll think it's okay. And then the people in Europe will go to China to get it done. So you basically, if you don't have a global understanding of that, you will have a problem. So that's what I think we here, you know, people who actually develop things, we have a certain obligation, maybe even a certain moral responsibility to think about what would happen with certain things that we develop. And that's why I personally also believe that having a little bit of an understanding of moral and ethical issues in general and to discuss them is an important soft skill that we should be taught at the university. We don't, but I think it should be a mandatory course. Now, this is kind of like the only thing I want to point out on the ethics part is ethics, honesty, integrity, respect. Those are those key values that you should actually always have in there. I'm not trying to be a preacher here or anything. But if you follow the guidelines, you're trying to be honest. You're trying to have an integrative approach. You treat other people with respect, and you have a little bit of a mindset on ethics. I think you will probably be okay. Most likely be okay. Biases, a very important thing. There's just a couple of things came out not too long ago that the AI, you may have heard about this actually, in the US, they have face recognition, and they have all kinds of other programs. They use AI-based recognition systems, and these programs then evaluate people based on certain features and do they look dangerous or whatever. I don't exactly know what they do, but they have found out that, not surprisingly, to us at the moment, that Black people are picked out dramatically more often by these programs as dangerous than white people are. Now, that's of course not true, but a part of that is that the training program they used for these images were predominantly white training images. So there was a bias already in the AI program built in. They also found out that looking at melanomas or looking at skin cancer, for example, obviously the skin cancer melanoma on a dark skin looks completely different than on a white skin. So they did not have enough data cases for the dark skin melanoma, so they could not put it into the training case. And that was actually done, we didn't have the data sets, it was just bad luck, right? And completely different result came out. So you need to be also careful with AI, and I think that's kind of like the key on this one is, you may have heard about the old saying about AI is like, if you put shit in, you get shit out, and this is true, of course, with that too. If you put biased data in there, you must expect there's some biased results coming out, and bias is that's a very important thing you have to look at. Are there 50% women in the database and 50% men, or is it like 80% men and 20% women? That could be a bias already that the AI program works on. So it is very important to look carefully at the data. Okay, so do you want to have a 3-minute break, 5-minute break, get something or not? We don't have anybody. Everybody shakes their heads. I don't have everybody on here. All right, so we continue. So now I want to start and going very quickly through the value proposition. The launchpad purpose launchpad methodology, because you all read it except for Anna, but Anna was at least honest enough to admit it. I'm pretty sure that some others did not read it either, but they didn't admit it. So Anna, that's very much appreciated. But you will follow up on this week, right? Because there's no reading this week, so you can do it this week. Now, the point is, it starts the whole issue with the purpose launchpad methodology starts in the center, and it's yellow, and the yellow part is basically the exploration phase. And what you're trying to do there is you're trying to actually put a baseline together. You're trying to define your problem. You're trying to define your maybe first idea. You see it's like what do I actually try to achieve? Who's my potential customer? And you try to actually follow an approach to find all these things out. Now, you don't have to follow an approach like this methodology here. You can actually do that yourself, but this is a good guideline. It's a good help to actually, you know, always tell you what kind of things you could use to find out certain things. And that's why the developer of this is Francisco Palau. He always says it's not a methodology, it's a meta methodology, meaning that to find this out, you use a lot of individual tools. So if you start here on the top and you see on the top right, it says purpose validation. This is basically an MTP canvas that we will talk in a second, that massive transformative purpose canvas. If you want to go to the team discovery, you may want to use a team canvas to help you understand which team members would be ideal. I also had you do this BOSI test. At least I hope some of you did it. This test, this is a very quick test, but it's a very interesting test. And in my case, at least, I thought it was actually quite good. Do we fit together in the team? What kind of characters do we need in this team? Do we need a builder character? Do we need an innovator character? Is that the right thing we do? If you want to go further on and you want to validate your customer, you may want to use this value proposition canvas. So we go now clockwise, right? So we're now at 3 o'clock position, customer validation. If you want to verify or find out on whether there's exponential growth potential in such a business model or such an idea, you can use the EXO canvas, open EXO canvas. And if you want to then create a business model behind it, you want to use the business model canvas. And the whole thing you can actually check in somewhat of a Scrum methodology, an Agile methodology, where we continuously check and verify and go back. That's why all these arrows are there. So diving deeper into it, I think I'll cut to this one. This is a chart that you should actually have. We don't go in there right now, but it's a very small print, but it's very difficult for me to actually make this bigger. But again, you start in the orange part. So you start in the middle here where it says start. And the first thing you do is you define a purpose. Everything you do on this one, you don't have to fix it. You can start with one thing and maybe, when you find out it's really not a good idea or not a good purpose, change it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's learning. It's always adjusting. And I don't want you guys to do something and just write something down. I want you to actually verify and then learn. And you find out, oh, that doesn't work, or this was not a good idea, then change it. This is the most important thing about this class, is how to adapt your initial ideas and how to learn from this approach. So going to this one. So for example, if you want to do this purpose, you want to define an MTP first, and then there's different tools you can use. If you want to go for the abundance, you have to look at the EXO canvas. So that's what this shows you. Is this yellow part is in the exploration phase. It gives you the tools that you can use to find out certain things. And then the same thing goes for evaluation and implementation or impact. We will in this course probably not get out of the yellow or the orange, maybe a little bit into the blue one. But I want you just to know this methodology. You can actually, further, if you ever decide to create a startup or you want to dive deeper into it, you would go further. But this is just what I want to show you as a methodology. What we typically do also with the biodesign process, also in my lab, is that we try to identify the problems and then we ideate around the solutions. This is basically the part explore, and to a certain aspect, the evaluation part included. We will not go into the implementation phase of biodesign. That would here basically creating an impact. This is kind of like the same thing. Okay, let's start with the purpose. And now you can actually decide to I have a purpose and I know what it is. You can also use an MTP canvas. And I have actually given you a personal individual assignment to actually create an MTP for yourself. It's an additional bonus assignment. If you do it, it's fine. If you don't do it, it's also okay. You would get 3 extra points. Most of you don't care about these points anyway, but it's a cool exercise. And I'll show you because I did one for myself. It's a cool exercise to actually have a much higher goal. And a lot of the things that I do, I actually question, do they fit into this goal? Is it something I really want to do? So I give you this MTP canvas, just a quick run through. So we go, typically you could, again, you don't have to use this canvas, it's just a help. But this canvas would start on the bottom left with values, and then it would go zigzag up. So it would go to the right to longings, and it would go to superpower. What is my superpower? Then it would go to kingdom, etc. And I'll give you some examples. So in my case, I say my values are love, honesty, justice. I don't think I did it for me. This is not for me. This is for something else. So you could put down whatever you want your values are. Whatever your longings are, in this case, I would put down treat others as I would like to be treated. Superpower, I'm definitely a very good, effective communicator. My kingdom is a society. That's maybe a little far-fetched. The inhabitants are people without resources. This is poor people, for example. I cannot actually read the challenge because you are actually covering that. Can anybody tell me what it says with challenge?
Equal opportunities.
Okay, equal opportunities. Then my footprint is to have better people through education, etc., etc. And then I can actually create out of this, maybe with all these buzzwords I have, I can create myself an MTP. I have done this for myself, so you can actually look at that. So my values were fairness, trust, self-empowerment, longings. If you do more, you should have more, but you do need to ensure that one is left behind, etc., etc. And I'm very much dedicated to the healthcare environment. This is kind of like my kingdom, and then my MTP, and I follow this for the last 2 years now, is healthcare democratize enabler. This is one of my goals, and that's actually why I do this class, because I want to teach you ways of actually thinking about healthcare in a democratized way. We're making it available to everybody, and whatever is part of this is my kingdom, is my goal. So this is my personal MTP. I have some examples of two. This is your personal assignment. We don't do anything right now. I send it to you actually on WhatsApp. Did you get it? Yeah, so they're all this. So you can do it, and it's really a fun exercise for yourself. It's just I just wanted you to actually go through for yourself. But I'll force you to get one done for the company or for your project anyway. But it's a different one for yourself than for your project. Now, I also want to introduce the Exo Canvas. We'll go into a second into that. Exo Canvas, everybody should know, because all of you should have the Exo Foundations course. And all of you should have actually read some of the stuff that I gave you, except for Anna. Anna, have you done the Exo Foundations? So you know this already then. We also will talk quickly about the business model canvas. And we will dive, I promise you, so that even though when I go quickly over it, we'll dive into these significantly more in depth later on in the next lectures. I just want you guys to first have some exercises with it yourself. So use your team project and work on it, and then we'll go through it together when you present it, and we'll maybe do some corrections and maybe ask some questions on it. So I want to use this basically that you start with the knowledge that you have to actually assume things. And maybe your assumptions are wrong or are right, but start doing certain things, and we'll talk about this next time with your team project and find out on whether it was a good idea or not. Same thing goes for the business model canvas, where I believe the most important things are the customer segment and the value propositions, and everything else will fall in place. I'll have some examples for you in a second. So if we focus on your team project approach for the time being, on value propositions, customer segments, and maybe key partners, that would almost be enough for the time being, right? And all the other things will fall in place. So there's normally a very huge synergy between the Exo Canvas and the business model canvas, which I will also show you in a second, where you can look at how can I make certain things redundant in my business model canvas. So now Mr. Palau from Purpose Launchpad says you should do this Exo Canvas first. I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe you should actually have an understanding of your product idea. So and maybe do some value proposition canvas, see what the customer wants, maybe have an initial idea what that whole thing could look like in a setup. What do I need? What are my value propositions? So do the business model canvas first, and then see how can I actually make it exponential. So do the exponential canvas later, not first. So we don't have to always follow the spiral as well. We can actually use certain aspects first. And I would recommend you, for the time being, discuss among yourselves the team project you want to continue. Maybe you can define or work on a purpose on this MTP. Also not important that you really finish it up right now. You can always come back to this later. Work definitely on your value propositions, and work on maybe an first idea of a business model canvas, focusing on value propositions, customer segments, and key partners. Yeah, this is just redundant. I just want to say that at the end of the day, to be successful, and there's some really cool classes you can take. One is called Scaling Up, and that's coming from that one, is that you need to have an interaction to be successful between the people involved, the customer. You need to have a good strategy and a good product. And there's one other thing that fits in there. You need to have cash. You need to have some money to do it. So this is not part of it, but I think it's part of the strategy in this case. But you need to have these components in place. And I'll show you at least later on one approach that's more for the advanced class at some point in time. It's something called a one-page strategic plan and a one-page business plan. It's a really cool thing. And but you need to have significantly more information on that. Okay, we'll cut to this one. So what happens later on, and you can try this out when you actually go through the assessment. There is a link that I'll provide you. I have put that in already, where you can go into the Launchpad, into the Purpose Launchpad website, and you can actually check your team project. So you can, there will be questions. I think the questions are, let me see if I have the questions somewhere. No, we'll get to this in a sec. There will be questions in, have you done do you have an MTP? And then you put down, yes, I have one, it's very strong, blah, blah, blah. Do you have a team in progress? No, we are thinking about it. So you kind of fill this out. It goes very quick. It's like a 2 or 3 minute evaluation. And then you will actually get a chart that looks a little bit like the one on the bottom left. This is kind of like the starting point. All right, I'm not really good. I have a little bit of done an MTP, a little bit done on people, whatever. So it gives you a little bit of an idea. Where do you have to put efforts in there? So if you look at this left one, you would probably put some thought process into the business model, because they have nothing on the business model yet, or very little. And when you do this sequentially and you follow this spiral approach, you will eventually get to something that is on the right side. So this is the marketing pitch on this one. But it is really a powerful assessment of things that are missing. So you have this general idea about what you want to do, what your goal is, of how you want to actually get this done in the healthcare segment. What is your general idea? So this is like the hard approach. So you want to actually follow this, but there is also the tool set that is available to you to actually feed this approach, this assessment, also with hard facts, with data. That is very important, because at the end of the day, if you ever want to start a company, and this is not an entrepreneurship class, this is just a class of helping you to identify innovation and to actually follow through with it. But if you really want to go further, you need to be confident about, this is a really cool idea. I have validated. I have found that the customers are actually going for it. I really am excited about it. So this is kind of like where you need to have the facts follow your heart. And that's also, again, and I put this down in this yellow line down there, the most important thing is here not to advance necessarily in this Launchpad graph. And you will also not get a good grade because you have a high launch. It doesn't really matter at all to me. It matters only to me on whether you actually learned something. And on whether you found out, I think that assumption was really bad and I should do something differently. And this is actually what the whole thing is all about. So quick one to the extra attributes, and I'll go very quickly through that because you have read that all. This is, for example, it's very interesting. This starts with the purpose now. And this is the purpose, the MTP, the vision, and the mission of OpenExo. So this is the organization that's behind this EXO Foundation course you took. So their MTP says, transforming the world for a better future. Wow, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty big. It's not very concrete at all. It's just basically saying we want to do things and we want to actually help the world to create a better future. Yeah, a little bit esoteric, a little bit holistic maybe even, but it's a very big goal. Now, you can laugh about this to a certain extent. You can also think that's kind of like silly to have something like that. But you'll find out, I hope you will at least, you'll find out that this is very powerful to have something that actually guides you in a certain way. I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong. So Christopher, you're a Christian. This is not a religion. This is merely a way of thinking and motivating yourself. And it's also a way of, this is not something that is in German, you said in Stein gemeißelt or carved in stone. You can always change it. You know, if you think that was a stupid approach at some point in time, you change it. Don't do it too often, rather think a little bit intensively about it. A vision is something more concrete. Become the world's leading global EXO transformation ecosystem. That's already pretty clear. I mean, exponential transformation, there's probably not that many around anyway. So I want to become the leading one. And then the mission is something where you basically say, and this is what I'm going to do right now to achieve this. So train and certify purpose-driven individuals to build exponential organizations. So if you go from the bottom to the top, it gets more and more, less and less concrete. Going from the top to the bottom, more and more concrete. It's kind of like the approach. This is what I want to reach in 30 years, 2 years now. And that's what I'm doing right now. I have some examples actually for you. Let's not go into Richard Branson, even though I appreciate him very much. Did I tell you that I'm a signed up Blue Origin astronaut? So that's with him. So that's his company. No, it's not true. That's Jeff Bezos' company. Galactic is his company. So massive transformative purpose. So what is an MTP? It describes the world, highly aspirational, unique to you. It should be really global. It should not be limiting yourself to, I want to do something really cool for Magdeburg. It needs to be a little bigger than that. I see dramatically bigger than that. What is not an MTP? It's not a vision or mission, because that already describes what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's not a marketing slogan. And a lot of people think that should be a marketing slogan. No, it's not. It's actually something, a lot of companies, when you look at them, they don't tell you what their MTP is. It's not something they publish, not something that they are putting up on their website. Well, I'll show you some examples anyway on that. So MTP, Google, organize the world's information. TED, ideas worth spreading. You've heard these ones before. At least the one from Google, you've heard one before. That's a very powerful MTP, organize the world's information. Very global. It's not necessarily exactly what they do right now, but they are working on this, and they do a lot of things that fit into this plan. This one, we don't go in detail. You can look at that if you really want to develop an MTP, what it should be. It's kind of like what I said before. And there's also a checklist. So instead of using this canvas, this MTP canvas, you can also use a checklist like this one here. So to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, Mr. Musk, to help individuals and business realize their full potential, to make sustainable living commonplace, etc. MTPs, why does the company exist? What is the ultimate thriving goal? Vision, what does the company want to become? And the mission is, how does the company achieve its vision purpose? How? What does it want to become? What is the vision for the next 10 years? And what is the real reason why we are around? Now, when you look at these companies, Zappos, Unilever, the Zappos CEO just died. I don't know if you read that. He was in a fire and he died. He was only 46 years old, I think. Unilever, Amazon, America, those are all huge companies. And I've heard that before. Yeah, but we are a starting company. We have not even done anything yet. Why do we have to give ourselves something like that? It is a great thinking process and a great strategic process, and also a great process that is future oriented. A couple more. They're all there. So a little bit into the EXO attributes. That goes quick. So I'm hitting on Anna again. So the red ones, what are the red ones? Are they the internal or the external attributes?
External.
Okay.
Stefan,
Well, you had a 50-50 chance and you were right. So in all honesty, I abbreviate them. I think I had this in, sorry. I abbreviate them with scale. It's not only what I do, so a lot of people do it. They use scale and ideas. Ideas is the internal ones and scale is the external one. I have also problems, so I use always scale. It has an E at the end, so that's external for me, and idea starts with I, it's internal. And it basically has a couple of components in there. There's one on the external side where you try to actually shift things that the business needs to the outside. So you have engagement from customers or crowd and community that are actually on the outside, that they are working with you. You can actually also use algorithms to actually make the processes streamlined, and you can use leverage assets. I'm not sure if you exactly know what that means, but we'll go into that in 1 second, where you basically don't have to build up your own resources, but you use external resources. You don't have to spend time and effort on having these things. Internal means that you actually create an environment that is very low hierarchy. Very low hierarchy means you have autonomy. You can actually work freely in your company, and you don't have to follow what the boss says. Well, to a certain extent, you probably still have to do that, but you have a lot of freedom to do. You can experiment around. You can try out things. Those are the internal. And if you have this in place, and if you have at least 4 out of these 10 in place, you could become an exponential company that actually can grow and scale significantly more than a normal company can do. So an example for staff on demand is Uber, a quick one. They don't have any employees. All their drivers are self-employed. So they are getting people in to do a job for them, but they're not on their payroll. They only get paid when they do something. So you never make a loss with these people. You always make a gain. Every time they drive, they create a revenue for the company, and the company only has to pay when they drive. So the company cannot lose money. It's completely impossible. Community and crowd is where you actually create an environment where people love to go to. Kickstarter, I don't know who knows Kickstarter, is a crowdfunding company. You can actually invest 500 euros or 250 euros in companies or in new projects, new ideas. You can buy all kinds of weird tools. I think I have one here that I bought sometime. It was I don't know if you can see it. It's a watch that is actually powered by the difference between the ambient temperature and my skin temperature. It actually works pretty well. It's a little too big for me, so I didn't wear it. But these are the kind of things you can buy there, and it's kind of like, it's cool to see what people come up with, and they finance this, and so they have basically a crowd they build up that people are going there constantly and actually checking things out. Wow, what's cool out there? What's new out there? And if you invest early, you typically can also get good deals. Now, why do I put community crowd for Harley Davidson there? Harley Davidson is a drug. You know, people who have a Harley Davidson, I tend to be a BMW guy, so I'm not in this category. But Harley Davidson, they have everything from Harley Davidson. They have their beards, they have their tattoos, they have whatever. This is like where you create your own community that is interested in only Harley Davidson, and they do anything for Harley Davidson. They buy anything. I think I probably would put Apple down as well, because that's pretty much what I am. Doesn't matter what Apple does, I'll buy it.
Yeah, it actually basically becomes a lifestyle. It's part of your identity.
And you know what the important thing is, and that's actually one of the criteria is, if you have to not invest a single penny of selling something, they don't have to sell anything. If you buy stuff from Apple, you can go to an Apple store, but most people buy it online. And what is the cost to the company? Pretty much nothing. And so at the end of the day, if you have a sales guy running around and knocking on doors, that's expensive. And that's actually very linear, because the guy can only visit 2 customers a day. So it's very linear. But if you have a crowd and community that basically does the selling, the buying and by itself, it's like almost an ideal setup. Algorithms. I mean, Google would not live with having good algorithm. Uber would not be able to actually calculate. Did you get, how many of you have used Uber before? Moritz in the in Australia probably too, right?
Yeah.
When I travel, I always use Uber. And the reason for that is that you actually it knows where your location is, obviously, or your cell phone, and you just put in the destination and it tells you exactly how much it will cost. And it also tells you how many minutes it will take before somebody picks you up. And I don't have to check the stupid taxi driver who always cheats me and always drives as long as possible so the bill goes up. It's a fixed price. I don't have to talk to the driver. If I want to, I can. I don't have to talk to. I basically have a credit card, and the guy drops me off, and then it's done on my credit card. It's super, super easy. But there's all these algorithms involved of calculating, of giving you the best direction, always trying to go around, having the right drivers at the right location so they all have a job. So there's tons of algorithms involved. And with Airbnb, it's similar. If you ever tried Airbnb, it will, based on your previous renting experience, they will actually give you the right, almost a right recommendation of what you should try to go for. Leverage assets. Airbnb is another example used again here. Airbnb, I think, is the most exponential company. I think they have a 10 out of 10 on these attributes. And Airbnb does not own a single place, does not own a single hotel room or a single flat. They own nothing. They basically have the relation to the renter, to the one who has the apartment. By the way, I don't know if you read that, but Portugal, in Lisbon, 30% of the apartments are Airbnb apartments in the moment. And they're trying to actually rent them back now, I've heard, the city, because there's not enough places. So it's a big business. And so they don't own anything. Flixbus doesn't own any buses. Uber doesn't own any taxis. Marriott, on the other hand, when they want to build a new hotel, they have to actually take money in their hands, build the rooms. And this is a very linear approach. They can grow exponentially because they just have a computer interface. They don't own anything. Same thing goes with Amazon Web Service. What you do is, now it's a different, when Amazon Web Service is the opposite. Is when you want to have a web service, you actually contract it with Amazon Web Services. So rather than you building up an entire infrastructure of computers, you are actually using their services. So they are actually having their setup so that you as a customer buys their data storage place. So you don't have to invest in this stuff anymore. You just subcontract to somebody else. So this is their business concept. Engagement, XPRIZE. XPRIZE is a good, I think I've mentioned this several times before. XPRIZE already. XPRIZE had this, they basically are creating challenges, international challenges. So they had a challenge on robots, like really good robots. They had also a challenge on a tricorder, from a diagnostic tricorder. So whoever has the best concept gets $10 million. And what they do is they actually have thousands of teams working on solving this problem. It's significantly easier if they would give one company 10 million and then they have to take whatever they come up with. They pick the best idea, the best result, and they have these people work for free for them. And you know, if there's 1,000 teams and there's one prize on it, 999 will not get the prize, but they still do it. This is like an engagement where you have people actually work for you, and they do it because they like doing it, but not necessarily because of the money. There's a lot of ideas going around this also in the healthcare field, where you have to think about how can you actually create the best algorithm for certain AI models. You could also do that as a challenge. Okay, and then you have also these internal attributes. We don't want to talk about this at that moment, but you need to implement also structures in your setup that allows for experimentation, that basically gives you enough autonomy to actually do these experiments, to try them out, Dashboards is something where you basically see the results and you see where do you have to invest efforts, where do you have to make things better. And you need to have, of course, interfaces, some form of interface to the outside world, to either the external parameters or to other players in this field, because otherwise you are detached from the real world. And if that's the case, you have a good basis for a really good exponential setup. Okay, there are some interfaces you can see here, dashboards. LinkedIn has a lot of dashboards, but only if you're a professional user. You can see exactly how many people went onto your profile, where do they come from, how many had a title of CEO, how many were a job, what are headhunters. So there's a lot of dashboards you can actually take from that, but again, you have to pay for that. And experimentation, this is a little bit based, and this is what you have to put into your work concept. And this is also something that we will work on, is these agile concepts where you continuously try out certain things. You try the response. There could be a customer experiment or a customer questionnaire. You measure the response, you learn from the response, and then you adjust it. So this is something you have to build into your criteria, into your development as well. Go to your customers. Who is your customer? Try to identify them. Try to show them something. Take back what you learned from the interaction of the customer with your device, maybe, and then readjust it. So the learning idea is the most important on this one. Okay. So social aspects, I mean, you obviously need to have something. We have tried it at Inca with actually a little bit of a not so high success rate. I'm trying to actually always promote the Slack file as a good way of interacting among each other. So I'm part of like many Slack files, but the Inca team is not really using it at the moment. Holger and Moritz, maybe you can try to actually stimulate them a little bit more, because that is really something where people are involved, they stay involved, but they only stay involved if it's really used. If it's not used, then we also use Trello or use Trello. I use it quite a bit in my other projects. It's a little project management software which very easily interacts also with Slack and very easily interacts with the outside world. The one thing that we use here in this group as well is WhatsApp. So we stay connected very quickly. We are engaged to a certain extent into this class. We know what's going on. We have the right information available. So these are the tools that you probably should use also in your team setup. Okay, so Airbnb has all of them. So I don't want to go through them. You may have actually seen this example anyway when you went through the foundation course. So this is based on this OpenExo assessment, I think the most exponential company at the moment in shit because of Corona, because they can't rent anything. So at the moment they have actually real problems at the moment, but I think it will go up again. But let me maybe this is a good example. They're not as growing as fast as possible, but because they have no expenses, they only have to pay the guy for the apartment when the apartment is used, which also means that if it's not rented, they have no expenses on that one. So for them, a disaster like Corona is not as big of a problem than for other companies like Marriott, who has all the running expenses on their hotels or Hyatt or Hilton or whatever. Their expenses continue to run, but they have no income. So here B&B, they have no income, but they also have no expenses. So, you know, it's also bad, but it's dramatically reduced their effort than what these big companies do. Now, this is just something I just wanted to show you quickly on what an exercise is that we could do. Maybe I repeat this next time and you can think about it. I have done this several times where you just take a company like Walmart, or you take Metro in Germany. That would be a similar model. And you just look, it's a very boring company to a certain extent, very big company, has 2.2 million employees in the US. It's a very interesting company, 6,200 stores. How would you make this company exponential? That's an interesting other aspect. This is not what we want to teach in this class, where you say you basically start your project and your idea with exponentiality in mind. What can I do for this? How can I make this more exponential? And then you just, think about picking 3 technologies, thinking about what kind of opportunities these technologies would bring, what kind of threats they would bring. Threats is actually spelled wrong. It's with a T, not with a D. And what would be their timing horizon behind it? Last time I did it with a group, it was very funny. They came up with, these big stores they have. Why don't we put up on the roof of this building, we put up a solar paneled greenhouse, and we actually grow the vegetables right in there and sell them from right there. It was a really cool idea, I thought, for Walmart. I mean, that they have the resources already there, and they can use new technologies to actually start that. They have drones flying around that water, or that you can have your own little plot in there, 10 square meters. You can watch it with a camera and can see, this is my plot, and I want you guys to put cucumbers in there now, or whatever. And this was a completely new idea based on an existing company. I think that's really clever. And this is also something you can do. And it's also something you can maybe implement in healthcare, where you would then use existing approaches and think about, how can I make them better? How can I make them exponential? This is kind of like what we thought about when we did this ejector, this low-cost injector. How can we make this an exponential setup? So also something you can think of. Okay. So just as a quick one on the business model canvas. So I would start, and this is kind of like the sequence of filling this business model canvas. I'll start, who is your customer? So you can be as specific as possible. I mean, if you just say the customer is everybody, then it's not really good. But if you have it's not only a surgeon, but it's a vascular surgeon. It's much better. It's much easier to then find out, how do I get to this customer? So the more specific you are, the better you're off. So maybe it's a book lover. We are not describing Amazon here. It's just examples. Then I would go to the value proposition. So what do I offer for this customer? And you can actually use 2 or 3 customers. And a good idea would be you somehow color code them. So the vascular surgeon is yellow, and the peripheral surgeon is red, and the robotic surgeon is green. And then you see, what is the value proposition that would address the robotic surgeon? You would also do that green, so that you have a little bit of an identification, which value proposition is important to which customer segment. So that's what I would do. And the value proposition is based on importance to a certain part. What is the most important value proposition? And it could be, it is new, that it's a higher performance, that it's specially customized, that it has a nice design, maybe it's very cheap. Those are the kind of value propositions that are really important to customers, or whatever is important to your customers. Now they do the channels. I don't think the channels are that important at the moment. So the channel would be, how do I actually communicate with the customer? How do I get my value proposition communicated to the customer? So how do I make sure he knows about it? Is it an internet? Is it a mailing action? Do I need to set up a booth somewhere on a conference? Do I ring doorbells? What do I need to do to actually communicate that? Next thing is, what is my relation to the customer? Is it only an online relation? Is it a personal relation? Do I have some form of automated bot response? Do I create a community? That's again exponential. Think about the engagement in the crowd and community. And what are the revenue streams? So we're basically describing now everything on the right side, which is kind of like, what do I offer? And then on the left side is, what do I need to get done on that business model canvas? On the left side is, what do I need to get that actually done? So what are my revenue streams? You don't have to do this right now for your project. If you have an idea, it's not so important at the moment. Value proposition, customers, key activities. And if you have those, all the other things will eventually fall in place. Key resources, what is the most important asset that required? So if you have a Google, you need to have a server, and you need to have the algorithms, otherwise you will not get the results out. So this is a very key resource. You need to have software programmers to do that. What are the key activities? What do I need to get done? So I need to build a prototype, then I need to think about regulatory aspects. then I need to actually find somebody who does the industry design for me. What is it that I need to get done? Who is my partner? Do I need a manufacturing partner? Do I need a research partner for that? Do I need a software partner for that? What do I need? So these are the main points of this business model canvas. And obviously, how much does it all cost? Things that are not important at the moment, that will fall into place at some point in time. And then you have, if you look at Google, you have a value proposition that looks like that. You see a little bit the color coding that I mentioned before. So if you look at value propositions, web search, Gmail, Google+, it would go to all the internet users. If I have value propositions, I have targeted ads, it would go to the advertiser. So this one is a little bit color coded also. The revenue stream. So if you look at the green one, internet users, that's a free use. So you don't get any revenues in, but the ads will bring the revenues. And what is my cost structure is, of course, everything that has to do with IP, infrastructure, sales network, R&D cost, etc. Okay, this is the business plan or the business model of Google in one page. And when you look at this page, you can actually explain that. And that should happen to your project too, that you can use this value proposition and business model canvas so you can explain your idea. Facebook, we don't have to go into that. Airbnb. And this is what I put this out for. If you now look at the business model canvas, that's why I believe you should actually do the business model canvas first and then think in terms of how can I make it exponential? So if you look at that, for example, and you have a key activity that you would like to become a key partner, then this is actually, this is actually staff on demand. So you could have a key activity done by an outsider. And that's staff on demand. You just use them whenever you need them. Same thing goes here. If you have if you are able to create a community using your partners that have worked for you, using the channels and using some of the customer segments and really create a cool customer relationship. The customer wants to be on my side. He wants to get information. Then you already have a community built that always will go there. And they will always, try to find the information or try to get inspiration by actually going there. And you know what? They will buy your product and they will maybe be excited about contributing, sharing even for free because it's their community. They love that stuff. How do you get key partners, key activities, cost structures into key resources? By maybe using algorithms. Maybe you can replace some of these outsiders, those cost structures, and actually replace them with an intelligent machine learning algorithm. Now, maybe a little far-fetched for some of our ideas, but this is at least what you could think of. Key resources, shifting over to key partners. So why do you have to have your own computer system, your own cloud system? Why don't you just, shift it to Amazon Web Service? Maybe Amazon Web Service can even help you with some of their algorithms and with some of their additional information that they provide. So this is what we use this Axo Canvas for. How do we optimize our business model canvas? So again, I don't think we have to go through all these things in detail, but this is, one more time, this is the key essence of this approach that I want you also to think of is, who is my customer? What kind of problems does he or she have? That's the value proposition canvas. Try to validate that. Try to find the highest priorities. Try to actually, idea a first idea that could solve maybe this issue, and then maybe reiterate it. Check what could be a complete model around this. This is what you use this business model canvas for, and see whether you can actually even streamline it more, can make it more attractive, can scale it up more. And that's where you use the open X or the exponential canvas for. And please, I think this is an important chart, because we have two teams, right? 2 teams of 4 each. Please contribute to the team. So don't be the asshole in the team. That happens, but contribute. And I promise you, you will get a lot of things back from this team approach. So I would recommend that you this is self-organization, and you don't have to spend lots of hours. But do a self-organization, meet maybe, I don't know, twice a week for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. Discuss what needs to be done, do some things, throw it together. Maybe now we are very exponential, right? Use a Slack file, use a Trello file, put these things together, create a joint work document, have a Dropbox, right? These are all these exponential or digital aspects you can use in this group approach. There's a lot of companies out there who do really well that are completely detached from each other. Nobody ever sees each other in person. They always see each other in digital things. One of the things that is very important, I think I have a slide on this one later on, is that if you really work on a team approach like this, you should try to meet as often as possible. So maybe even once a day. And if it's only for 5 minutes, it's not, the amount of time is not important. It is just important that you quickly see each other, you quickly exchange, what have you done? What were the problems? Shit, I couldn't get anywhere. Does anybody have any help on that? You can then separate later on and do a one-on-one call, but that you as a team actually work on this very regularly. So one of you, do you guys, I don't know if you manage or decided on whether you want to have one official group leader or something like that. Somebody needs to manage that too. And this is also a very important aspect, that you try to actually organize these things without a hierarchy. It's a team approach. Somebody needs to be responsible for making sure that the others are part of the team and do something, right? So I leave this up to you. I think this is self-management, and we will have a first result next week, and I think I'll get to this in a second. Yeah, I want to just quickly not go through this. You can look at that yourself. This is something, Beatrice, maybe you're thinking about maybe a startup idea anyway. This is maybe more important for you to a certain extent. Try to actually find words you own. For example, the easy ejector. This is mine. I own that word. Easy ejector is an easy injector, right? It's kind of like, when you repeat this more often, you can use this all the time and describe your idea and your product. It's a word you own for your idea. And there's a lot of other things you can use, like have a one phrase strategy, but it's a little bit too complicated right now to look at that. What I want you to look at is something called BHAG. Does anybody have a clue what that means? It's a really funky one. It's called Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. So what do you want to reach in 5 years, right? And this is more like the business aspect. And then there's a class called Scaling Up. So if anybody's ever interested in doing this, it's a really cool class. I have actually the book on this one. Hold
on. Michael, while you're looking for the book, didn't you said we shouldn't think in like 5 years plans or 3-year plans anymore? We should think more closer.
Yeah, that's what it says here, 10 to 25 year goal. But for the 10 to 25 year goal, you need to have a goal for the next year, for the next 6 months. You need a goal for the next 6 months, for the next year, for the next 5 years, and for the next 25 years. You can only reach your 25-year goal if you have smaller 6-month goals. And this is a really cool book, Scaling Up. It's not relevant for this course at the moment, but maybe for Moritz also it would be relevant, because this is really a book that helps you scale up your ideas and your components. It's a little bit more business oriented, but it's nevertheless a really cool setup. And I think I have an example. This is, for example, the 1-page strategic plan for the easy ejector, very small, right? But if you start from the left, it says, what are my core beliefs? What is my purpose? What is my target for the next 3 to 5 years? And what is my goal for the year? So it's not only giving you the big goals, but it breaks it down to the next 3-month goals. So you can always adjust that. That is not something what you should do is you should revisit this plan every 3 months, every 2 months, but you should give yourself some goals to reach, and should actually even put down, I think this is, if you look at the middle page, and on the bottom, it says celebration and reward. So give yourself a celebration when you reach your goal or overextend your goal. You know, invite your people to a, I think I put down here an innovative trip, sightseeing, drinking, eating, learning to Scotland, whatever, 4 days. So, you know, give yourself a goal that if you reach it, you also celebrate, you know, and this plan that takes a while to fill it out, but it's even more than a business model canvas. It's a complete guide to how you plan your project. And I repeat myself for the 15th time. This is something you write, and whenever you learn something, you change it, you adapt it. And this is the most important thing. It's if you have a 30-page business plan or 50-page business plan, you can't change that. You can change that very quickly. And if you have that in front of you, you can actually show every investor or potential customer, or even somebody who wants to work with this. These people have really thought it through. I think they're really clever. And then there's on the right side, there's a vision summary. And that is another way of actually looking at your BHAG, which is the big, hairy, audacious goal, that 10, 15-year one. But what does it mean for my short-term strategy? How do I break it down? So nothing that we have to do for this class, but it's just, I wanted to show you, this is something, if you really go forward, this is a really, really cool way of planning a project out. It does not need to be a company, it can be anything. You can even put your PhD probably topic in there. Okay. All right, this is just, this is why I said I had a little chart for you in this one. This is in the world of digital business. This is kind of like what companies do at the moment. They do what they call a daily huddle. It's only like a 5 or 10-minute meeting. And then they have a weekly meeting that's more intense. And the other ones we forget because we don't go that far. But the more often you meet, the more familiar you are with each other, and the more you can actually address issues. So it's just a recommendation. I leave it up to you. But one of the goals of this class is not only that you learn how to do what I want you to do to a certain extent, but something that you can hopefully apply in the rest of your life as well. Okay. And do me a favor too. Any ideas you have, don't throw them away. Always write them down. Because what will happen if you do that in real life, you will actually have an idea and you will follow this idea, and then you will find out, shit, it was not so good, that idea. You can always go back to other ideas that you have. So write all the ideas always down, and maybe quickly check them, put them on a bench and just wait for a while, but don't discard those ideas. Don't throw them away. So now we get to what I want you to do. And this is a little bit actually what I want you to do. I want you to actually, sorry, it's very hard on the eyes, right? It hurts my eyes actually as well. So maybe I have to change this one. So I hope you have chosen a group topic. If not, you have some time to do that now. This is what I asked you to do with your assessment of what do you want to do and what do you have an idea for. Maybe this is the basis for a project that you discuss among yourselves. So you throw your ideas and you discuss them, and maybe you select the best one out of it, the one you like the best, right? Or you pick another one. But the idea of creating this first assignment that you gave me with this what kind of concrete idea do you have? This one could be a good basis for a continuous work on that project. Up to you what to decide. So then I would actually, and these are all recommendations. This is not something that you have to do, but I would probably work a little bit on in that group and define the underlying problem and start to hypothesize what could happen. How can we make all these things that we understand as a problem? How can we make them significantly better, faster, whatever, right, than the current solution? You should. It's not MRP. It's called MTP. That's a spello. You should at some point in time define an MTP and a mission and vision statement. It's not necessary right now to do this. It's just something you should do at some point in time. You should obviously understand who are the stakeholders who are involved in your problem and who are your customers. And please do two value propositions for two different stakeholders, just to understand jobs be done, pains, gains, and what can we offer theoretically for that. Then use this one-page elevator pitch sentence that you can create based on these value propositions. So again, remember, you put the value proposition together, and then you pick the one with the highest priority, the highest value, and then you put this into this value proposition. Let me just go back here. So here it says our, and then it says whatever is the highest priority in products and features, right? But you have this information, you have this all this stuff. Where were we? So anyway, it's all from Learning Point, and I would like you to actually, for the next week as a group, present, your initial, first the idea, of course, and then maybe a short one on your customer stakeholders, and maybe your first analysis of the value proposition canvas, and maybe if you get to it, also start with a business model canvas. I would really think it would be really a cool idea, but this is just a bonus one for you. If you rethink what you've done and think, okay, what would that look like if I would not be in Germany, but in Ethiopia? Would that be the same, or would it be different? Because with that, you can also create maybe regional differences or international differences. And when you have done this, put this together, maybe try to get a first analysis done on this using this purpose